Hi, you guys. Like, subscribe, and hit the notification button if you would. Okay, so today's video is going to be a few things that I mention in this bonus audio, but the full story of Randall Emmett and me and what was missing from Randall Scandall, because there's like a whole chunk of his career missing, is in this bonus audio from May 23rd in the Patreon. If you guys want to listen to it, it is so good. I mean, it really is so good. Ask anybody. Let me grab some things that people said about it, okay? Plus, there's Real Housewives of New Jersey, more reunion gossip. I mean, I practically told you the whole reunion at this point. But anyway, there it is. See? It also covers the story behind Tom Sandoval's breakdown with his friend who just passed away. If you heard in all the tabloids, Tom Sandoval was doing like a rest in peace message on his Instagram, and so was Ariana. Tributes to their friend who died last week, they believe due to organ failure. Well, Alibaba, that's his Instagram name, he and I were talking before he passed away, and I found out some information about him and a big fallout that he had with Tom Sandoval. So Tom Sandoval's dealing with a lot more on that whole mourning process than people think. We're missing a big chunk, but I have that chunk, and I think it's good for you guys to know in this bonus audio about it, because it's going to give you some insight into Tom. More gossip on Sandoval in my video on Thursday. Another thing is the new reboot cast of Real Housewives of New York season 14 is debuting on July 16th. And I've already done a deep dive on all the women, okay? And I really want you guys, if you're in the Patreon or not in the Patreon, join. It's only $6 for the month. I want you guys to go and start to look into the deep dives I did, because they're really good. So here's part 3. This was Giselle Taak and Lizzie Savetsky. Even though Lizzie quit the cast, I do think she's going to come up a little maybe in the beginning. And she also, it was very interesting. So it's upsetting that she didn't do the season, but whatever. Okay, and then we've got Uba Hassan and Bryn Whitfield. And then also Sai De Silva, Erin Danawilkey, and Jenna Lyons. These women, I already know how they're going to be attacked, what's going to happen to them, because I've done so much due diligence on them so that I could share my insight as we do the season. I think I might do that one. We'll see. So anyway, if you have not checked these out, please go in and check them out. And I do have them as a video and an audio. It's going to make such a difference for you going into the season. It's going to make you enjoy it a lot more. So here's a picture of Randall Emmett and I. This was at a gifting suite that I was doing in conjunction with Nikki Beach. You want to see the yacht I rented that year? I'll explain how and all that. Just don't worry. The RM Elegant was a mega yacht, and it was one of the largest yachts in the world, although not my biggest yacht I ever rented. Now, why did I rent these yachts? I rented these yachts because I used to bring in brand sponsorship and very wealthy people who would stay on them. In the case of RM Elegant, it had 15 bedrooms. That meant 15 people, couples, whatever. And so they would pay a huge amount of money each night to accomplish paying for a percentage of the boat. And the other percentage of the boat was paid for brands that wanted to do parties on the yacht that I would do using my celebrity contacts. And they would then get brand exposure and also get some chill time with the celebs, which was good for brands. And so I did a lot of this type of thing. And I usually would do other things too to make extra money. Like I might produce a party on the land too, and I might sell some tickets to American Express Black representatives, or, some other rich people floating around. because I myself would negotiate a certain amount of tickets on any premiere that I myself produced for a movie company as part of my fee. And those tickets were then resold to rich people. Think, Super Bowls, what, 25, 30,000 a ticket. This would be more like 2,000-3,000 a ticket in a really highly demanded party, 5,000 a ticket. But this all made some really good cha-ching for me. And during this particular year, it just so happened that I had started working with a new producer who was working with a guy who I did all his movies. Now, just to set the groundwork for this, when I was in the Hollywood entertainment industry, it was not unusual for people to all be doing, and it wasn't unusual at all to have assistants cry, scream, weep. In fact, I did a reality show, just saying, called Life of the Party, and they covered me all over the world, specifically at the Monte Carlo Grand Prix and Cannes Film Festival. And they had me screaming at my assistant in one scene, firing her, because this was the climate. The idea was, if you were a mogul in whatever your industry was, you treated your assistant like crap, because we all went through it in Hollywood, and some people really badly. You might want to do some looking into some of the people that have worked for David Geffen, or you might want to look into some of the people that worked for Den. They didn't have it so great. Yeah, it's like crazy. Have you looked into Den? I have. Anyway, let's just say that's the way it was. People were really mean in Hollywood, and you couldn't get away in Hollywood at this time without having someone pull out their, you know what, and see if you wanted to suck it. That was your boss. And in fact, I have a story about that in my bonus audio that happened to me with the very boss that Randy worked for. And that was his mentor, because Randy didn't learn packaging films from Mark Wahlberg's assisting job. Randy learned packaging films from two of the most, as they call it in the docuseries, grit people in Hollywood. Really gritty. Lots of grit there. So these gritty producers were mentoring Randy Emmett when I went and worked for them and did sponsorship and branding in all their films, and also produced, using brand money, all of their premiere parties, because this company had a specific model in mind, and it was to be able to do a high action and/or it really didn't have anything to do with the genre of action, but what they were trying to do was do movies that appealed in international markets. And all that really required usually was, well, definitely not a comedy, because guess what? Funny movies don't translate in other languages, but action does. And so they did a lot of those types of films, and they did them in weird places and for cheap. Places like Bulgaria, would you believe it? But this wasn't their secret sauce. No, there was something else. All of the producers during this period of time had a secret sauce. The secret sauce was they would reach out to very, very good actors, and they would either offer them a role that they really wanted to play that no one would let them play in Hollywood, so they would work at a discounted rate, or they would go to a star that had a script that they were dying to direct or to do, and they would finance it in return for them discounting their rate. Or they would get someone who's been in retired, or maybe was looking for a job opportunity, perhaps had fallen out of the Goldie Belt of Hollywood, and they would give them opportunities to get back in front of the decision makers again by being in the film, and they would also make some money, some damn good money. Not great money, but good money. And this was enough that a lot of actors did films. The reason that this worked is it didn't matter about domestic sales in films. It only mattered about international sales, because actually the people I work for and Randy did, and by the way, they built Randy into the producer that he became. His first credits are related to them. This is his formative years as a producer. These gentlemen, amongst others, sold most of their films internationally, and that's where they made their money. And then it was like, if you got domestic distribution, it was gravy. In the end of the day, you had your film discounted. You had your big star. You didn't have to make as much, and they were very profitable. Not like Titanic profitable, but profitable. Okay, so let's talk about Randall Scandall now. So first of all, I want to say about the Randall Scandall docuseries, congratulations to all the people that did the talking head things on it. They did a great job, and I do believe that the LA Times authors of the docuseries in conjunction with ABC meant well in terms of how they were depicting, or as they put it, shining a light on a dark corner of Hollywood. And I do want to say that because I think that's important to acknowledge everyone's hard work in this project. I also want to say that I was approached to be in the project, but wasn't able to be a part of it because I couldn't fly to Los Angeles, unfortunately, because I couldn't leave my son and they only wanted to shoot in LA. And I was really excited to share some of the stories that I did in my bonus audio that I mentioned earlier with the world, but I couldn't. And also probably my stories might have screwed up some of the general storyline that they were telling, so maybe I wasn't a good fit anyway on this one. But I'm a huge fan of ABC News, just to say it. They know that. I also want to say I've had fights with Randall Emmett. Look at this. Wow. Boy, I was mean. I was pissed. That's what I was. So it's true. Randall Emmett owed me $5,000. Paid it after 10 years with the support of Heather McDonald. She talks about that in her interview with Jax Taylor that she does. It's somewhere towards the latter part of her podcast interview with him. She brings it up. She tells her version of events from her perspective of me telling her the story. The detailed version of the story, of course, is in my bonus audio because it happened to me. So I did share it from my perspective, of course, in my place. But I think it's good to also hear her testimony of what happened with all that. So I guess what I want to say, some of which I've built up to in this video, is that I disagree that Randall Emmett's formative years was as an assistant to Mark Wahlberg. I believe it actually was working for my boss, and that taught him the business model they ended up duplicating over and over again. He also got his first few producer breaks. And my boss was ruthless. He was a womanizer, and he was kind of lovable in a weird way. And perhaps if the LA Times writers had spoken to me, because I've never heard from any of them, I don't know, maybe LA Times doesn't like me for some reason. I have no idea, because I do love them, and I love Matt, who works for them. But for maybe some reason, they're choosy. I don't make the threshold or whatever. So who knows? And to be fair, Bruce Willis was not exploited in Randall's movies. Bruce Willis appreciated, I'm sure, knowing Bruce Willis's way. In fact, the year that I did the Cannes Film Festival you saw that picture and that yacht, I also threw a party for Brett Ratner, Petra Nemkova, and Bruce Willis. He was there in a red suit. He looked so cute. But Bruce Willis would never say that Randy abused him or something like that from that experience, because he appreciated it, because he needed work, he wanted to work, and he was having memory loss issues. And Randy was willing to do that project with him and had a lot at stake, because if Randy is backing that project with his investor money, if that film fails because Bruce Willis has to quit for some reason midway or to the tail end of that film, then that is going to all fall on Randall Emmett. And that's soul-crushing SHIT. Soul-crushing. Especially if there's studios involved. In this case, there wasn't. But boy, is it soul-crushing. And no offense to the prop lady in the docuseries, but it's one thing to work in the prop department. It's another to be the producer that has to report in to the investors and the distributors. And any producer that was in deep on the funding with his actor having those types of problems would panic and freak out and probably get really angry and speak shit, because that's how they talk. I just feel like nobody in this film has worked in the entertainment industry legit. Now, Marty Singer is pretty much every big player's lawyer in Hollywood, so there's some overlap, obviously, and interest in this, full disclosure. However, Marty Singer, on behalf of Bruce Willis, released this statement, which didn't make it in the docuseries, which is unfortunate. It was responding to the report, meaning the LA Times article that says that Bruce Willis was exploited. Martin Singer said to the publication in a statement, "My client continued working after his medical diagnosis because he wanted to work and was able to do so, just like many other diagnosed with aphasia who are capable of continuing to work. Because Mr. Willis appeared in those films, they could get finance," the attorney added. "That resulted in literally thousands of people having jobs, many during the COVID-19 pandemic." And also Bruce Willis, by the way, you guys. So Marty Singer agrees with me. I'm so glad, see? So another thing that I want to say about the Randall scandal is that Lala Kent is a victim. I feel terrible for her. I was cheated on. My man who was on the show with me on the time I was on, that I played out my whole engagement on the season, if you remember, had a double life, had a whole nother life in another place with another woman, and was cheating on me from 8 months pregnant. And I've never gotten $1 of child support, and I've had to single-handedly raise my son alone, and I didn't have a TV show because Bravo pretty much kicked me to the curb. This man also hacked all my accounts, tried to put me in jail, tried to destroy my life, nuke my reputation that was pristine until meeting him. The list goes on and on. So I feel for Lala, totally. And there's no doubt in my mind, if she thinks Randall cheated, then he probably did. Because he's a player. Now, Randy says he didn't. Even to me. Swore he didn't. Was like, I love Lala. Right. She's walking out the door, going to a hotel, and he was still saying, I love her. I don't know what's going on here. But Ava, whose voice appears in the docuseries, says otherwise. She says that he slipped into her DMs and tried to buy her and make her, his sugar baby. And also the assistants in the show say that they bought things on their credit card for him to hide that he was meeting women at hotels and the like, although no receipts were presented on the show. Now, does anyone have these receipts? Because I really want to know. If Randy lied to me. I'm just saying. Sidebar. But Lala must know. Now, I don't believe that Lala knows, though, from Katie Maloney, as said in the Randall scandal, because I was sent a bunch of DMs between girl gangs and Lala and others that essentially we're talking about these girls in Nashville that Randy was supposedly cheating with and all this stuff. So I don't know how Katie came into all this, but that certainly wasn't the way that this all came about. So that was weird. I was like, why is Katie there? I mean, maybe girl gangs also communicated with Katie about it, but it wasn't really Katie. It was an influencer. An influencer that sold her account later to someone else. So don't go look for her because she's gone now. It's being run by another person. I feel terrible for the assistants and what they had to endure with Randall's behavior. I know his personality. He's boisterous. He's, gives you the runaround. He will expect you to do all sorts of things that put you in uncomfortable positions. Probably because that's what was done for him. Not probably by Mark Wahlberg, but definitely from the people I worked for. Okay. So what I'm going to say is I feel for you. And I'm sorry that you hate Hollywood. Many of my friends that have been in Hollywood have been forced off sets, crying, fired. Oh my God. I remember one set, one of my girlfriends, the producers all called her ugly behind her back, and then she found out, and she felt so bad about herself that she quit. It was a huge movie. When I say huge, A+, I could do a blind if you want, but anyway, they were calling her ugly and making fun of her on the set and all this stuff, and she was in a high-level production position, so upset that she quit. She was in the middle of like a snowy country and flew home crying and couldn't do another movie for a few years after that. But she eventually came back to it. But needless to say, people are constantly put through it. I mean, have you heard agent assistant stories? Don't let Randall Emmett making you a drug mule, which, by the way, let's face it, anybody you work for that's partying in LA that isn't sober, that is an agent, a producer, or a celebrity is going to require mule services because they're not going to be going to get the drugs themselves, that's for sure, unless they're at a party, because then it'll be given to them in the bathroom. I've been to many of those and it's happened, so I know that's how it goes. Some deliver. I've talked about that before. I have a whole episode about celebrity drug dealers if you want to learn about that. But the thing is that don't let that stop you from being an assistant or being in Hollywood. You just have to keep going. You can't listen. That's the whole test. Because see, the test is the people who listen can't survive it and they're out. And the people who don't listen, they put their head down. They do what they have to, like Geffen said he went to UCLA so he could become a William Morris agent because they won't let you be a William Morris agent unless you've graduated from college, and he didn't. So he worked in the mailroom, told them that UCLA. Then when the letter came in from UCLA, he doctored the letter to show that he went to the school and didn't not ever go to the school. And then that letter through the mailroom went to the higher ups at William Morris, and that's how he was able to get his job. But he knew his time was, on the countdown, because eventually he'd screw off the wrong person who would find out or knew, and they would take him out with that. So he had to leave William Morris quickly and to get that experience he needed to gain that credibility to move on to the next one. Another friend of mine sat at a agency desk for 4 years listening to this agent's phone calls day in and day out, reading his every email, his correspondence on all his deals and his contracts and his talent, and he felt like such a loser because this agent, beyond doing what was required, wouldn't help him at all in the name, like the most important thing besides contract negotiations, which is sales, getting your talent, all those other things. And guess what? He never got off the desk as an assistant. They dangled it in front of him like a banana with a monkey for years, and he never could achieve it. And he was tortured inside. He gave up 4 years of his life, losing in another career that he could have done. He got like basically nothing out of it except contractual understanding, and was left like, screw you, you don't like it, get the hell out then. And he did. But it was torture. So we come to find out that Randall Emmett got blacklisted for not paying a full contract on one of his projects that didn't go, that he hired some WGA agents and that's a no-no, and he's gonna pay it. He has to. So that's coming. That's in the mail. You might as well just know that it's coming. But what I was gonna say is that, the WGA plays hardball too. I know they have to fight like hell to keep their union alive, and it is so necessary, right? But they play hardball too. I have several family members that are in different job positions and crew positions in the entertainment industry. And while WGA doesn't work, they're not going to make any money and their family is going to get hurt. But I get it. I know why the WGA is doing what they're doing. But I just want everybody to remember, like, there's always a high horse that somebody could put their saddle on. So I wanted to share some of my credential because I feel like it's really important for you understanding why I'm kind of coming across in the way that I am. It's because I've been in the entertainment industry for like so many years now. I want to say like, could it be like 30 years? Oh God, am I that old? Oh my goodness, it is. It's like 30 years, okay? But to give you an idea, I've been a production coordinator in commercials and music videos. I've been a unit production manager in commercials. I've done product placement in, I think, over 100 films for multiple studios. I've coordinated probably 7 gifting suites to do with the Oscars, Grammys, Sundance, Cannes. I've produced over 22 premiere parties related to the launch of films at the film festivals, both in America and in Europe. I've done publicity for celebrities, celebrity endorsements, and related branding endorsements that they wanted advice on. I built web application systems for people like Warner Brothers International Television, as well as many record labels and film companies that wanted to manage rights, including Ed Sullivan's show. I was in 2 reality show pilots, Life of the Party and Rich and Ditched, and I was on The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills as a cast member season 2, as a guest person season 1, and as a guest star in season 3. Also, that creepy fiance of mine financed films and was around a lot of people because of that, and I worked on some of those projects as well, helping him and the other producers like fill in the gaps when needed, including Brittany Murphy's last movie, Across the Hall. I also made out with a lot of really powerful directors and producers too, but that's for another day. So Randall has his really bad days, which is apparently being really bad to Lala Kent in the sense that I guess he cheated on her based on her feelings about it. I don't know what their situation is with child support and all of that, and I really hope he doesn't not pay it. If he isn't, I'll kill him because he knows that's a trigger for me. But besides that, I'm sorry about all that, and it's a shame. And Randall really should just stay single, honestly. He shouldn't be with anyone. He should just be by himself and be his own person. He's not good in those types of scenarios, I don't think. And Randy doesn't always do the right thing on time, but usually, eventually, when he has to, he will. He also does some really nice things for people, like pay me 10 years later, which he certainly didn't have to do. And even though I know that his relationship with Heather McDonald mattered to him, I really appreciated that he did that and honored that debt because nobody else that I know would have. See, when he's good, he's really, really good. This is the middle school in Miami that Randall Emmett attended as a young man. You see it mentioned in the Randall Scandal. And it's really hard to read, but it's a special thanks to Randall Emmett for raising a bunch of money for them from entertainment companies to support the school. So you know how I know about that? Because I lived in Miami for a while, and my son actually went for a bit to South Point Elementary School in Miami, which is a feeder school into the school that Randall Emmett went to. And my girlfriends had older kids attending where Randall went to school. And they were like, oh my gosh, you won't believe it. This guy was so nice. He's a big producer in LA, and all the kids look up to him. And he gave a whole bunch of money to school, and it really helped. And I was like, who? I'm like, really? Maybe I know him. And they were like, Randall Emmett. I was shocked. So there you have it. I think Randall's selling his house. Maybe he's going to pay off some of these people. I don't know. For me, I would say keep an open mind, even after the docuseries. He's a mixed bag, aren't we all? So I just want to end this video by saying I really feel bad for Lala. I know she has PTSD with this whole circumstance. It doesn't really matter who's right or wrong in all this at all. The reality is that she's suffering. She had a big dream to have her baby in a proper environment, and she's had to like really reconfigure her whole thing. And I think she felt like she was missold something by Randall, and that's very possible. But what I will say to all women in Hollywood is this. If you fall in love with a guy who's at the top in Hollywood, 9 out of 10 times there's going to be a chip cracked somewhere, because that's what it takes to survive it. My suggestion, date a plastic surgeon. All right, you guys, like, subscribe, and hit the notification button. I look forward to seeing your comments. Good, positive comments about the docuseries are welcome. Negative comments are fine too. I just want to hear your opinion, and I don't want anyone to feel like they can't share exactly how they feel, because the truth of the matter is to each their own. All right, bye.